Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with the wonderful viewer questions that you so very kindly submitted to this channel a few months back. Thank you so much once again for doing so. I really appreciate it. Truly, I do. And the next question, or set of questions and comments, is from Chun-Link. So hello, Chun-Link. I hope this video finds you well. And you say, what are your thoughts on the Star Wars Prequel Trilogy? Do you think that it deserves the criticism that it has? Personally, it's my favorite movie trilogy of all time. I first saw the trilogy when I was a kid. I thought the movies were cool, and I still do to this day. Every time I watch one of the movies, I feel like a kid who thinks that what's happening on screen is awesome. My least favorite thing about the trilogy is when my mom did not let me go to the theater to see Episode 1 when it was re-released in 3D back in 2012. At least I was able to get all the plastic spoons from the serial promotion of the re-release. Bonus, as a French movie lover, I think it has a great French dub alongside the original trilogy. Chun-Link, thank you so much for a really lovely comment and for sharing with me, and indeed with all of us, your thoughts about the prequel trilogy in the Star Wars film series. Thank you. So this is referring to the films that are Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Episode 2, or I should say Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So, I remember when the first of these prequel films came out and was released, and the build-up to the release was intense. It was really intense, and the promotion was out of this world and unreal, and the excitement that was in the air. And I remember amongst that, watching there was the first mentionings of who the Liam Neeson, character would be, and what kind of Jedi would the character of Qui-Gon Jinn be, and starting to get little clues and hints as to what was going on. This was, of course, back in the day. It's not unlike now with internet and everything like that, and the way things are, news is spreading. But there was still the beginnings, I think, of the internet back in the day, and so you could get. I remember I was in the U.S. and it was AOL at the time, I think, and so I think it coincided around that period. But in any event, here we had the beginnings of that, and then the build-up it was immense. And then I think there were the trailers that dropped, and those were exciting. The first trailer with was it Every Generation Has a Legend, and you had the shots of what we understand were these glimpses of this very mysterious figure, and that would be Darth Maul, and you'd have shots of what would be the pod race, and shots of Queen Amidala and the like, and so it was amazing. And then the second trailer, the main full trailer, I suppose, dropped as well, and you had the shot of the landscape of the droid army on Naboo. They were attacking, or they were about to attack against the field and against the Gungan army as well. So, and then you had, of course, the Obi-Wan Kenobi that ended that particular trailer. So it was a big deal, a really big deal. And I remember too that I think for me the most exciting part of that build-up to the opening of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was the music video that was released, and it started with Darth Maul's line, and it was, at last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi, at last we will have our revenge, and then it led into Duel of the Fates, and so it was the Duel of the Fates music video. That was so awesome. That remains, what a great music score that was, so exciting. And then I bought tickets for episode 1 of The Phantom Menace for the theaters. Very exciting. And then I saw the film, and it was, I admit I was very disappointed when I saw it. I felt like it was not giving me kind of experience of being entertained that I was expecting, or that I had felt when I was watching the original trilogy films. I went back, though, and I watched it a number of times in the theater with other people, and many people that I went to the film with, they expressed they were very satisfied with the film, and others maybe were not so satisfied. But I had this feeling of maybe somewhat lacking in satisfaction as a viewer watching episode 1, The Phantom Menace. But when it came out later on, on physical media, for instance, the DVDs at the time, those DVDs, by the way, were really great releases, so exciting with the menus and the way that they were interactive, and you had a different menu depending on when the time of day or something. It was a randomly selected menu. That was really cool. And then that gave us the introduction to that great documentary, the making of documentary about episode 1, which I think is a real classic in the DVD making of documentary history. And then watching the film, I mean, I say I was disappointed with episode 1, The Phantom Menace, but there were still a lot of moments that was really exciting to me. The great excitement, which was the confrontation between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Naboo Palace hangar, leading into this power structure of some sort. Amazing stuff. That was a highlight for me. I just was excited whenever that scene came on, and still am when I see that scene. And so the integration of the Duel of the Fates music in that was fantastic. And so I always get a kick out of that. But still, I admit, too, that I was somewhat disappointed. Oh, I should mention, too, that I was one of those people who were so shocked when I saw the CD soundtrack of episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and I saw the back, and it had a track listing which revealed the fate of one of the characters. And I was like, what? What's going on? So anyway, that was my experience with episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when it was released. And then I was still a Star Wars fan, though, and I was still watching Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and I was anticipating very much the second episode, Episode 2. What would it be called? What would the trailer be? And then indeed, the news came that it would be Attack of the Clones. And I thought the title was fine. I thought it was a very, it wasn't the greatest title I'd ever heard, but it was a really good title. And then that first very mysterious, maybe teaser trailer hit. It had no dialogue. It was basically the sound of the breathing of the character that would be Darth Vader over some shots of what I understand were episode 2, Attack of the Clones. You see Padme, you see shots of Tatooine, I think. There are some shots of Coruscant and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then it suddenly goes into the mysterious darkness with some mysterious figures fighting with lightsabers, and the crash of the titles, episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And then the next trailer hit, and it was it started with the meeting between Padme Amidala, who's now senator, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's been far too long, Master Kenobi. And then she turns and she says, "Oh, Annie, my goodness, you've grown." And what does he say? "Oh, and so have you, more beautiful, I mean." And that's supposed to introduce the whole idea that this is meant to be a film that's very much focused on the plot of romance of this film, Star Wars Episode 2, The Phantom Menace. I'm sorry, what did I say? Star Wars Episode 2, The Phantom Menace. That was a complete mistake on my part. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Please pardon me for that. And then there was the other trailer, which was had, I think, more scenes of Geonosis and the whole thing with the battle. and then it had the and then there were a number of other trailers as well. But I think the build-up for that for me was very intriguing. And then I went and saw the film with a number of my friends. I was in Japan at the time, if I remember correctly. And I remember that when the film was over, I think my friends were maybe somewhat, well, it was okay. They weren't overwhelmed. I thought it was great. I thought Attack of the Clones was so much fun. I felt at the end of the theater experience, I felt, yes, this is great. This is wonderful. I feel like this was a feeling that I didn't have when I was watching Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And I felt, wow, this is exciting. And yes, I see the flaws. I see some of the dialogue is a bit, but that's part of the charm and fun of Star Wars and the Star Wars universe. And I don't react to some of that dialogue. For instance, the Anakin Padme scenes. I think those are very charming. I don't have a reaction of this is cringy, but I do get the criticisms. But all in all, I think it's quite effective. It's meant to show the development of the relationship, and it's a very key relationship in the whole story of Star Wars, as we know. And I thought that the introduction of the characters of Dooku and the mystery element, it was almost like this was a film noir mystery, and Obi-Wan Kenobi was a detective. And this whole thing about Jango Fett and his relationship with what would become the clone army. What's the clone army? What's going on here? And all these questions, and who is Sifo Dyas, and all this stuff. It was all these mystery elements, which I thought were really, really, it added that level of intrigue, and the underbelly, if you will, the lower depths of Coruscant as a city, which I thought was so cool as well. That the nightlife and the almost the dirty atmosphere of this, which was a really great thing, because up to then, especially in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, we saw the pristine, almost the upper classes, the upper echelons of power as expressed in the halls of power and government in Coruscant in Episode 1. So it was nice to see that contrast. And I love it's really quite mind-bending in terms of the way in which the Sith are operating, and who's allied with whom, and what's going on. It becomes this real web of confusion, which I really appreciated, because I liked that type of intrigue, and that was being hinted at. And of course, there was the scene at the time when it was released. The big deal was Yoda. That was huge. It was huge, and it was so exciting, and it was this burst of energy. And I really enjoyed the scenes between Yoda and Count Dooku in particular. And then Episode 3, I had a similar experience. I thought it was really enjoyable, and I could see the criticisms. And then, of course, later, I'm a big fan of, say, Red Letter Media and Mr. Plinkett, and I saw those, and I was anticipating what they would say about each of the, Episode 2, what they in Episode 3, of course. Their Episode 1, The Phantom Menace work on YouTube is one of the classics of YouTube film discussion, I think. And so I'm a big fan of Red Letter Media, and so I get their criticisms. And I should say, too, that in the course of this, as I grew older, and then I had a family of my own, and I had kids, we would go and watch some of the Star Wars films. And one of the films would be Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And I remember my daughter, who was quite young at the time, and I watched it together. And she was really into it. And so I was able to get a different type of appreciation about Episode 1, the film that I'd first seen all the way back in the day when it was first released, and I was disappointed by it. But then I could watch it now, and I could maybe enjoy it from a different perspective, from the perspective of my young child who is now enjoying the world. And so from that viewpoint, I was able, I think, to really get into it, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And so I can watch it now and have a really good time with it. I can, as I say, I see the flaws, and I can understand the flaws, but I can still really get into it, because I can. There are many moments that grab me still, and I also, as I say, I was really enjoying the other two. In particular, I think the second one. I know that maybe the second one in the trilogy maybe gets a great deal of criticism, perhaps. But I think for me, maybe my personal favorite of the prequel trilogy is actually Episode 2, The Attack of the Clones, and then followed by Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and then followed by Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, if I had to rank them. I just really love the character of Count Dooku, and I love that interaction with Yoda, and I love that mystery and how it resolves itself, or within the context of that film. Actually, I think that in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, I think that the Dooku stuff in that film isn't as compelling to me as the Dooku story as it was presented in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I thought that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. I think actually for me, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, I think it's really marvelous. I think the marvel of that, the absolute exquisite nature of Episode 3, of Revenge of the Sith, comes after all the Clone War stuff, after the stuff with General Grievous and Dooku in sort of the first half, or the first 2/3 of it, perhaps. When that is settled and it gets into this final chapter, the real nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of the story between the Jedi and the Sith, and we see what happens when it kicks into high gear like that. It becomes this grand thing. And so I love Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, for that. I think for me, maybe that first part, the story about the Clone War, I think that's good, but for me it's that second. So I think therefore maybe overall, I think just as a type of effect on me personally, I think Attack of the Clones does it for me. But then I can't take away from the power that is Revenge of the Sith. And indeed, a lot is made, of course, of the fight, the duel at the end, or the duels, I should say. For me, it was a stroke of genius. I thought it was a real stroke of genius to have the setting of Palpatine and Yoda be the halls of the Senate, right? The Senate floor, the room of the Senate. That was genius. And you had this symbol, this image that's really been throughout the prequel trilogy. You saw a little bit in Episode 2. You saw a lot of it in Episode 1, perhaps, with Chancellor Valorum back in the day. And then now we have Emperor Palpatine. But to have Palpatine just throw those pods of Senate chamber seats, that was genius. That was genius. And I think it was in one of the documentaries or commentaries about how this is a symbol of the destruction of the democratic principles of the Republic, made flesh, made real in this actual fight between the Sith and the Jedi. This is perhaps one of the most essential fights in all of Star Wars. So, and to the victor lay the spoils. And indeed, this is so crucial. Who will survive? Who will survive out in the end? And we know the answer to that. Leads to the rest of the saga as it will unfold in Episodes 4, Episodes 5, and Episode 6. So, but that choice of having it in this particular chamber was magnificent. Truly, truly magnificent. And that is, to me, a great highlight. And I love the moment where they're fighting over one particular Senate thing, and it twirls, and that between Yoda and Palpatine, and then Palpatine's got, and he just goes, this is great stuff. And then they have their Force lightning power duel, etc. Amazing. So I'm sorry. The reason why I say this, to go back to your great question, Chun-Link, is because I really enjoy the prequel trilogy, and for me personally, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 79, so I grew up in the 80s. So I grew up watching Return of the Jedi or The Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars were already on VHS tapes. I watched those on VHS tape, and I was just falling in love with them. I just love them. So nothing will ever take that away from me. But I grew to really love and admire the prequel trilogy, even when I first started. And as I say, I was disappointed with Episode 1. I gradually began to really, really get into that. Again, through a lot of the watching that I was able to do with the rest of my family. So I am, yeah, so maybe that's my way of trying to answer the question, Chun-Link, and just say that, yes, I'm very happy to read your comment and to see the great enthusiasm that you have for the prequel trilogy, and that's wonderful. And, you know, you mentioned plastic spoons as part of the cereal promotion. I don't remember that. I do remember the great the reveal of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It was the 3D version. I think it was at this point where they replaced the puppet work that was in Episode 1 of Yoda with the digital animation depiction of Yoda. Now, I must admit, too, I love both versions, but I saw the Episode 1 with the Frank Oz work with Yoda, and I have a preference towards that. So, but as I said, I was a huge fan of Episode 2 when I saw it, and that was at the time when it was released. That was the big deal that was going on with Yoda, and you know, I really do get the criticisms, which I think were expressed so brilliantly by, as I say, Red Letter Media. I think those people are just amazing. They always do an amazing job, and they really made the case for why they are maybe not so. Maybe they are criticized in a certain manner of speaking, and I get those criticisms. But just going with the flow, just seeing what they have to offer, because as I say, to borrow George Lucas's maybe oft-used phrase, it's like poetry. It rhymes. And I get that as perspective, but also they are meant to be different perspectives because there are different points in time. So, and I get that too. As I said, they aren't my favorite Star Wars films. That will always be the original trilogy, but I do visit them fairly frequently. So, Chun-Link, thank you so much for the wonderful comment and question, and I hope you are well, my friend. And so, until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.